What is up, everyone? Welcome to Reels Movie Podcast. This is Z, and I am bringing you another edition of Chit Chat. Today, I'm bringing you someone that I've known for probably about 7 years now. She's an actress and a first time director, actually, directed her own feature film last year, a little bit this year. I'm talking with Vanessa Leonard. Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Hey guys.
Start it off, tell us about yourself. How early did you get into acting?
That is such a broad question. well, I did theater throughout junior high and high school for various plays and whatnot. I started making movies at a very young age. I actually asked my parents, for a video camera because when I was 11 or 12 years old, I just remember I loved the idea of making movies. I was the middle child, and my older sister, she didn't really have anything to do with it. But because I was the middle child, I had a sibling underneath me. And I got to boss him around. So my brother dressed up and played different characters for me. So I was very appreciative of that. So I've always been kind of making movies. But it's really cool in my adulthood, just growing up. I want to say it was about, yeah, as you mentioned, 6 or 7 years ago. We met right away on, I think, like the first movie set that I've done post high school life. Yeah, so we really just got back into acting, but this time around it was film. So it's one of those things that when you get on set, you just meet various people and it's networking and connecting. And yeah, eventually one movie led to another audition and then another one and then another one. And it really just kind of had a snowball effect from there.
Did you always want to do stuff with film?
Yeah, I would say just, at a young age. It was really interesting, though. I didn't really touch base on this, but I've always wanted to direct, actually. I remember saying to my parents, like, I want to be a director. I want to be a director. So even though acting's really cool, I really liked the idea of just kind of being in charge and calling the shots.
Who were some of your inspirations at a young age that actually got your heart towards acting or even directing?
Well, that is a tough question. I would say Angelina Jolie for sure because she balances the whole social life and director and actress life. So I would say I'm very inspired by her. There's just other strong female filmmakers who I look really up to, but she's probably the main one.
You said you did stage play as well.
Yeah.
What is, what is harder, being on stage or being acting on film?
That is such a great question. Oh my gosh. Well, talking to agencies, they definitely want to see that you have theater background, and I do. However, it's been quite a while. So actually, fortunately, this year it was not. I typically make goals each year of what I want to accomplish in my acting and filmmaker career. And when I started 2019, I was not expecting to get back on stage, let alone doing theater that was a musical, which is, in my opinion, is way harder than just normal acting, or theater acting, I should say. Yeah, so I did a musical this year, and that really challenged me because that was my first time being on stage in probably 10 years. It's way different than film acting. I will say this, it challenges you more as an artist and as an actor, because it really takes the exaggeration, just everything, and throwing you into a circle and just giving it your all because you have to really exaggerate. However, when it comes to film, I do prefer film. I find it way more authentic, and especially for just the very intimate scenes, I find them just like you're right there, and I mean, you feel the emotions. Whereas just theater is just a whole new element. I think a lot of it is just kind of a comedic as well.
How do you handle the pressure being on stage with people looking straight at you compared to film? You're on a big screen or even TV at home that people, they're not, you're not in the same room with them. So what
Right.
kind of pressure did you feel being on stage? And then also you've seen your movies on big screen.
Hmm.
Like what's the difference in pressure?
Well, most of the time when I watch myself on the movie screen, I might have a little bit of a substance in me, so that it takes some of the edge off. Um, but in theater, I guess my very first night, I made so many friends. So now I can say I have film friends and I have theater friends. It's really cool. But I just remember the first night, like I was so beyond nervous and so like overthinking everything. But thankfully, a lot of my friends, theater friends, they've performed the last 5 to 10 years. So like this is their thing. They do like three, if not three plus performances a year, and they just really like gave me encouragement, and they really kind of said you got this, and like it was just a really like just team support and team morale. So I would say that is what made me get over the hump of getting past my nerves on stage. But I will say this, once I got on stage though, I was really comfortable. I just had to get past the first music number, I guess you could say. But as far as film, I will say this though, it's going to be a completely different element when my movie comes out because I wrote it, and I think writing is way more intimate than just directing and acting as well. Because when you're directing and acting, especially acting, let's just, yeah, people are going to judge you on how like your acting skills are. I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking this, but I think a lot of people are going to view my movie as something that is my life, and it's completely fiction. So I don't know. I don't know. I think people are gonna. It's gonna be nerve wracking if that makes sense
Yeah.
when I premiere my movie.
Yeah, we'll talk about your movie soon.
Yeah, yeah,
And we want to learn more about you first.
yeah. No problem.
Can you talk about what play you did?
Yeah. So I was casted. I auditioned back in February, and I was casted for the Legally Blonde musical, and that was in end of April when we performed.
What role were you?
For my first time being in theater in over a decade, I was very fortunate enough to not only I was a part of the Greek chorus and choir and everything, but I was also two characters actually. I was like a supportive extra whose name was Whitney, who was not actually in the original movie. But the main character that I had, which a lot of people will recognize the name, is Chutney Wyndham. So I got to
Yep.
wear a crazy wig. It was fun.
They got the perm.
Yes.
The preparation for stage play. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that was weeks and weeks, maybe even
Oh,
months
oh
of
yeah.
rehearsing. What's harder to you? What's harder on your body? What's harder on like your emotions? Is it working on preparation for the stage or even preparations for a movie?
Well, theater definitely beat me up. I had tons of bruises. I was in so many dance numbers. Um, and like one, I had to like sing and jump rope at the same time. I had so many quick numbers or quick changes that I mean, I just remember like running around backstage and like I think it was the very last day actually, um, the last performance day, and me and another theater cast member, we were kind of like neck and neck. I don't know how to describe it, but so we darted one way, or I darted one way, they are darted the other, just so we can move, I guess, move around each other. And I plowed right into a set piece, and man, I had the ugliest bruise for like 2 weeks. But thankfully, it was the very last performance, so like, yeah, I just had to get through that night. Yeah, so as far as emotions though, I would say film, because as I mentioned earlier, there's just an authenticity and an intimate factor, and with having the close up of the camera being right there and knowing that your face is going to be like on a massive screen. Whereas theater, you're under bright lights and you're wearing a lot of heavy makeup. So yeah, I would say film is more emotions for sure, and
Okay.
theater I think is more physical. That is, if you don't do your own stunts in film.
Question: did you mess up at all on stage?
Nothing major at all. But I will say this: the night before opening night, we had dress rehearsal, and in one scene, it was a party scene. We had glass wine glasses. I don't know why we didn't have plastic, but we had glass. And so I'm actually the host of the party. So I'm walking around greeting the guests, and me and this other cast member, we had to hug. So I went to put my glass down, or actually no, the first night, the dress rehearsal night, I was holding it, and her arm bumped the glass, and it shattered. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we actually continued carrying our line, carrying on our lines, but
Hmm.
they actually stopped us and they said, okay, if that happens tomorrow night, like just shift your party to the side and we'll come and clean it up. But thankfully, that did not happen during the performances.
So they wanted real. They wanted real, and they didn't want
Yeah,
plastic.
they wanted the real deal, I guess.
That's actually kind of funny. Did you do any other doing in high school, being on stage? Did you have any other like lead roles, or were you always supporting or background?
Um, in high school, it was funny. I wanted to do theater, but yet like it was just kind of an extra activity for me because I was so busy with cheerleading. So I didn't really no, I don't remember auditioning for like lead stuff because I was so busy with tournaments and away games that I knew the time and the dedication I just couldn't put into the characters. So yeah, I did not. But I will say this: when I think it's junior high and or I'm sorry, junior year and senior year, there was something at my school called I'm totally blanking on the name,
All
but
right.
it was some sort of arts competition, and it was a 2-day event, and I want to say it was my senior year. I did a duet acting. I completely forget what it was called. It was called something, but I did a duet acting, and then I also did, I think, a 10-page monologue. It was crazy, and I don't know how I memorized it. I just remember doing like learning piece by piece, like paragraph by paragraph, and it was a long poem. And I just remember highlighting and doing a lot of studying and late nights on the bus coming home from games. But yeah, so I did. So I would say my senior year, I really branched out and pursued more acting and memorization, if that makes sense.
Because I've known you for years. You are a
Mm-hmm.
very confident person.
Thank you.
Did being on stage help your confidence? Did it help you build that up?
Yeah, it did actually. Yeah, I would say like I'm definitely way more confident now when it comes to acting and just exaggerating and what to do on stage. Because at first, I was a little rusty. But then being surrounded by so many theater people who, like I said, do this multiple times a year. So it was really cool to just kind of like take a step back and just kind of observe. Yeah, I mean, in no time, I definitely got my confidence back as far as for theater performing.
You've been married for how long?
Just over 9 years.
9 years. How do you, because I know for a fact you film a lot, you film long days, long
Hmm.
nights. How do you balance a working relationship with film and even stage, as opposed to this year, to a working life, a personal life? How do you balance the two?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I have, even throughout junior high and high school, like I give a little bit of my background. I did theater, I did cheerleading, I did choir and band and ensemble, and I also had a part-time job throughout high school. So I've always had that crazy, crazy life and crazy schedule. And then I got married. Well, when my husband and I, at the time when we were engaged, I remember having 3 jobs, 3 part-time jobs, and then also going full-time in college. Life was pretty crazy, and then also planning a wedding on top of that. Well, once I got married, I went down to 1 job. I think a year or 2 after we got married, that's when I graduated college. So life slowed down. Like it was a crazy drastic change, very fast for me, and I didn't like it. Especially because my husband's in a touring band. So at the time, the first couple of years of marriage, he was gone, 4, 6 weeks, and then home for a week or home for 2 weeks and then gone again for another 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, it was pretty crazy. So he had a crazier schedule than I did. But I'm just like, I don't like this. I don't like just sitting at home. Like, I need to do something. So that's when I actually branched out to see what was going on in my city, going on in my community and the surrounding areas. And that's when I found out about the film community. So to make a long story short, with my husband just being so busy, I got involved with the film community and I took on that, just added on activities. Now he's in the middle of coming out with his other album, so he's pretty busy with that. But he's at home more, so he hasn't actually toured in a little while. So he was very supportive of my movie and helped out a lot, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. I don't know. I think just our lives, we're both very busy and always on the go. So I think it just takes a lot of understanding, a lot of communication. And I will say this, I'm very thankful to live in the 21st century because, I mean, I can send a text message and he'll receive it in 2 seconds. Bands' music have been around, the last 70 years? Let's just talk modern music.
Yeah,
I guess, quote, modern music.
that's about right.
And but bands have always toured. Well, I just think about the band wives, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, cell phones weren't a thing. They had to wait till the band arrived at the venue or at the hotel, and they had to check in that way. So I'm very fortunate because we have FaceTime, we have Skype, we have Messenger and text, and I mean, you name it. So yeah, we're always communicating. We're always letting each other know what we're up to and what we're doing. And but yeah, I must say that I'm really loving the downtime right now a little bit.
Yeah, but you're honestly the type of person that loves to be busy.
I do. I do.
So you're
Right now,
always trying to find more projects to do.
I know. I will say this. I'm currently at the office and I'm editing. So I'm finishing up a recent project, and after that I get to breathe a little bit. So I'm excited, but like you said, we'll see how long that lasts.
Right. Now, one more question before we talk about film. You've also been a part of music videos, is that correct?
Yeah, I've actually been in a couple, but my first one was so much fun, and it was with my good friend TJ Sloan for his first EP, and it was really cool because it was actually for the movie New Blood Awakening. I had to get that right. I had to think about it because I was in Awakening and Rising, which was the first one, but which was directed by Chad Zuber. And it was really fun because I loved the movies in general because I got to play a badass, sexy vampire, and that's out of my element. So it was really fun, dressing up and playing a character, like a I don't know how you would a mystical, whatever, make believe character, but I guess
Mystical being.
yeah, mystical being. But yeah, so it was really cool playing a vampire and wearing red eyes and everything. Well, so he asked me to be in his music video, in which I had to kind of carry on the same character, I would say. But yeah, so we shot that. And then this past October, I was in a music video in Columbus for an upcoming hip hop artist. So I got to dance, and that was really cool and really fun. And I got to meet new people.
So now we're going to talk about your film career. You've been very busy over the past 7 years, building
Yes.
building up that IMDb resume.
Yes.
Greatly, greatly. You're very proud of it. What was your first movie?
My very first movie. Oh, that was with a company called I Open Pictures. They're no longer around though, but that was a point of view shot military movie, and that was zombies. So that was interesting. But as I mentioned previously, being on my first movie set, you just meet new people and you make connections and you network. And I found out about other auditions. From there, I just auditioned and I was casted for various shorts. I think you and I shot a short not too long after The Dead Will Rise. I did think of the name, The Dead Will Rise 2. I think you and I shot the clown statue. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was. I think it was actually immediately after.
Yeah, I want to say. So yeah, I did that. I did a short film with Kim Sanchez, which I don't know if she's still in the movie community here. I have not seen her name or seen her around. But yeah, so I was in a couple of her things. And then also I connected with Larry Williams, who's with Project A Studios, was in a couple of his stuff. And then I want to say the following year, that's when we got in New Blood Rising and New Blood Awakening. That was, were those, oh, they weren't back to back. I think Rising was filmed in 2013 and Awakening was in 2015. But
Yeah, there's a gap in between.
yeah. But yeah, so that Talk Nerdy to Me, which is a really fun comedy. I originally auditioned and was casted for it in 2014, but with a director change and actually a couple character changes, we did not actually. It did not go into production until spring of 2016. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm very fortunate with the connections I've made and the people. And another movie that I was in 2016 was Mock and Roll, and that was a mockumentary shot in Columbus as well with a new director. So that was really cool.
You said various shorts and obviously feature-length movies.
Mm-hmm.
As an actress, what's the difference?
Features are way more time consuming, depending on, the size of your character, I guess you could say. Because some features I've had like a day or two shoots, whereas other features, I mean, they could last up to 4 or 5 months, depending on the shooting schedule. So it really varies. But shorts are typically shot within a day or so. So I guess it's the biggest factor is the commitment and time.
What do you like doing more?
I would say features. Although I will say this, I am learning to love shorts. I'm finding out that film festivals love shorts, and that's just because they can accept so many of them because they're short and straight to the point. Whereas features, obviously, you're looking at least 40 minutes, if not longer. So yeah, it's a dedication. It's an actual movie. So, but yeah, I'm learning to love shorts, but I definitely lean towards features.
And you said you were part of my New Blood series,
Mm-hmm.
and you also were in Talk Nerdy. Now you
Yeah.
got to play a normal person, Talk Nerdy, and a fictional character in New Blood.
Yes.
As an actress, what do you like? What do you prefer, a fictional character or a realistic character?
Fictional, like the mystical, because that was way fun. It was really fun, just dressing up and completely changing your look, and yeah, I would definitely prefer that.
Is it so you can make the character your own?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, there's definitely a uniqueness there for sure.
Because I know I was on the set of Dead Will Rise 2, and I know the difference between that and New Blood, and that was more organized.
Yeah, yeah.
Organized.
Hmm.
Like, do you like that, or do you like the chaotic
No,
part?
definitely. I need structure. I need a shooting schedule. I need expectations. I need to know in advance of what I'm wearing, what I'm doing, what I'm bringing. So yeah, I definitely need a lot more structure for sure. I'm very like script. Like if you give me a script, I will do my best to act it out how the original writer envisioned it. But I'm pretty bad actually at impromptu. So like I just picture like I'm a processor, so if anyone throws anything at me that like I didn't expect, I mean, it takes me a second to react or to think about it first to process it. So I would say that's why I need structure.
Since you were a part of my movies, New Blood Rising and New Blood Awakening, and there were sequels, and you were in both of them, what was the difference in character in between both movies?
Yes, I played the character Ophelia, and in the first one, she was very submissive, very I'll do whatever her quote master or leader says. Um, Whereas the second movie, she really learned her voice and really learned to stand up for what she believed in, and really took a stand. She, started sticking up for herself and leading to some degree, I would say.
Do you have any fun stories on set of either Rising or Awakening?
Awakening was a lot of fun because we got to go into a quote boot camp. We all did our own stunts, and me and this other girl, Lisa, we went all out, and like I got to scale the wall and everything. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, you guys did. You guys actually came up with your own fight scene.
Yeah.
And a really good fight scene. Probably one of the best out of the whole bunch. It really
Oh, thank
was.
you.
Because I know how much work you guys put into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know one of the things you hated was the long nights for you. Trust me.
Yes.
Yeah, trust me. I know you hated it.
I know. Actually, yeah, it's been so weird because actually the vampire movies, like we shot at night, and plus it was summertime, so like the sun wasn't going down till like, 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And yeah, like we were shooting in the middle of the night, and it was so weird when I started doing like I wouldn't say regular movies, but like movies that are um that actually have the more realistic characters. I'm like, oh, that's right. We don't have to shoot in the middle of the night. So, but yeah, I just remember one night in particular. I was never grumpy. Like I tried to keep my emotions to myself. But I remember one night, I'm like, call time was 8 o'clock, and I got there at 8. I was dressed, ready to go, and I don't think we didn't start my scene till like 4 a.m. And I
No,
remember
no, wait. That's such a
what
lie.
Okay,
It
2
was
a.m.
about
It was
it was
pretty
about two.
late.
It was about two.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense then. I remember 4 something, so 4 hours. No, that would be 6 hours. But
It
either
was,
way, I ended up sleeping. I ended up finding a bench and like actually slept. And like someone woke me up. They're like, "Oh, they're ready for you now." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
sorry.
So, but no, it's fine. But like, it was always fun though, because there's that element of, just like hanging out with your friends and, making movies and, creating art in the middle of the night.
I didn't work with you for a while after Awakening. I think up until Talk Nerdy, which I had James on the first episode, which you can listen up at the top. And he had a lot of great stories of it. What was some of the great stories for working with Talk Nerdy?
Talk nerdy. The very first night actually of shooting, I want to say it was this first night, we shot a party scene. And that was so fun because first off, it was crazy weather. I remember that. It rained in the morning, and then during filming, it turned into snow. So we had like 3 inches of snow on the ground. And then like I want to say it was like dusk, like around 8 o'clock or so. It turned into like a sunset. Like all the clouds dispersed, and it was a sunset. And I just remember watching the sun glow through the kitchen windows. I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. This is Ohio in a nutshell. Like literally, we had 3 different seasons in like 3 hours. But yeah. So I remember the party scene being a riot. Like we ad libbed a lot. We just like got to dance crazy and just like have a lot of fun. And I met a lot of extras that night. So that was really cool. I made a lot of good connections. And like, I think it's funny because I was in my late 20s playing like a 17-year-old. So that's always fun. I guess that's one perk of being petite.
Yeah. Um, and you were a huge part of getting that movie, even having me produce the movie. Like that
Yeah.
was in limbo for what, 2 years before, 2, 3 years before that?
Yeah. So I originally auditioned and was casted, and we actually shot, I want to say like 4 or 5 scenes in the summer of 2014. Well, I don't know what exactly happened, but there was something that happened, and changing directors, changing cinematographers. I mean, it was like a kind of big ordeal. Well, then actually, and some of the cast wasn't able to return, so they're like, you know what, we're just gonna reshoot the movie. So occasionally, I remember I was kind of holding the writer and the original director accountable. I'm like, hey, look, like I really believe in this film, and I'm sorry for bugging you again, but when do you think it's gonna happen? When do you think it's gonna happen? Like, let me help out in any way I can. So, but yeah, eventually came to fruition, and I was really excited to see that happen.
Talk about your character and Talk Nerdy.
Oh my goodness. So it's really funny. because after doing the vampire movies for 3 years, I was really sick of my dark hair because I felt like I was typecast to some degree because I'm like, I just playing a vampire. So I really wanted to change up my look. So, but partly it was because of this character. I'm not gonna lie, because when I was originally casted for this character, they were calling for a blonde, and so I gradually changed my hair, and that was something, the transition phase. Let me tell you what. But yeah, so I became a blonde, and so I was a blonde for this movie, and it just worked out perfectly because that's essentially she was the typical blonde, as you can imagine, this very ditzy, very cheerleader, and like I don't know, it was annoying, but it was great. It was great. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I got to play a blonde in Talk Nerdy to Me.
And you were obviously you said the typical cheerleader, not the smartest person. And James Bragg did a lot of funny stuff with you to make your character more stand out. Did you have any input in your character with him?
I did. Yeah, I would suggest things here and there. But overall, though, James was a very creative director, and he had a lot of visions. So I really just learned from him of what he liked and what he wanted. And I want to say, like, the end result was really good. Had a lot of fun working with James. I would love to in the future.
And also, you directed two shorts that led up to your feature. Talk about your two shorts that you directed.
Yeah, so back in 2015, it was really funny because it was a vampire themed. Um, but I remember watching or seeing something online about this female filmmaker, I don't know, some sort of competition, and and had to do with vampires. Actually, if I remember right, I think it was Twilight or something. I don't remember.
No, it was Twilight. I remember this.
It was Twilight? Okay. So I want
Yeah.
to say the creator of Twilight, she was hosting some sort of competition for female filmmakers. I spoke to one of my good friends who's also a female filmmaker in the area. And I said, hey, do you want to do this? And she said, I don't know Twilight at all, but yes, I will absolutely do this with you. And I said, okay. So I kind of wrote an outline and had a vision for this. And she went along with it and she agreed to it. And we ended up not being chosen for the competition, which is we were both pretty bummed, or at least I was, because I was the one who came up with the story. And then come to find out, like the top 25, I think, who were chosen. I remember reading one script outline and like it was like almost identical to mine. And I was like, what? But it was fine. I wasn't bitter at all. But I still like wanted to, oh, that's what it was. So like you had to write a script or something, a summary, and then from there they will if you won, they would like fund you to make the movie, make the short. I think that's what it was. And then from there I entered another competition of, the overall results of your script once it was produced. So we didn't even get to like stage 2 of, just with the script. But I still told her, I'm like, look, like it's still really good and I still think it's worth making. So are you interested? She said, yeah, let's do it. So it was interesting. Like it was cool. I actually worked with a lot of previous filmmakers that I've worked with. But yeah, I shot it on various cameras, and I don't know, it was just really bringing. I wouldn't say like, it was directing, but like it wasn't. I don't know, it wasn't like your typical short because it was just most of it. Actually, if I remember right, it was a silent film, so it was like only like 3 to 5 minutes. I don't remember the length of it, but I remember it just being music and it was all acted out. So to me, it was directing, don't get me wrong, but like it was a completely different, like artistic short film. And then in spring of 2017, Larry Williams with Project A Studios contacted me. He's like, hey, look, like you said you wanted to get more into directing. And I said, yeah, like, because I don't think I gave a date, but my first directorial short was in fall of 2015, to give you a timeline. So here we are about a year and a half later. And so Larry's like, hey, look, I have the script. I think you would be great to direct it, possibly even act in it. And I said, okay, like, I'll take it. So I think I made a couple tweaks to it, to the script. And I had just a minor role, kind of. But it's actually, unfortunately, still in post-production. It's kind of out of my hands right now. I think score is being done on it, so, and whatnot. But so it hasn't been released yet. But I did direct an actual short, I guess you could say, in spring of 2017. And so that was a lot of fun because I got to just really take the script and envision it and tell people what I wanted. And it was really cool, like seeing it, come to life. And I want to say it took 2 days. We shot on a Saturday and Sunday. So we took 2 days to shoot that.
And that led you to your movie that you directed last year, A Story Worth Living. How long
Yes.
did you have that idea? Because you wrote it as well. How long did you have the idea for that movie?
Well, to talk about my goals in the film community, and just as an actress in general, as a filmmaker, I should say, my goal was always to get into a film festival that I can travel to. Like, I don't have to win. I have low expectations. And I have actually the Columbus movie that I was in back in 2016 that actually went to film festivals and actually won a lot of awards. But because I just had a supporting role, it wasn't worth traveling to. Instead of waiting around and like waiting for this amazing script to just fall into my lap, I kind of gave myself a cliche pep talk at the beginning of 2017. So if you can picture it, it's the beginning of the year, everyone's writing their New Year's resolutions. And so you can say I was no different. And yeah, so I just really started giving myself a pep talk and saying, Vanessa, like, you used to love to write, you used to love to make movies, like, create a script yourself. I really I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted it to be drama, and I knew that I wanted it to be based on mental illness. But from there, I had absolutely no idea because, I mean, in my mind, I was like, what hasn't been done before? I really sat on this and was like fighting and struggling through my thoughts for a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, until one night I had crazy insomnia. And so I don't know, it was the reverse effects. I think a lot of people say they dreamt things and it gives them inspiration. But
Mm-hmm.
I had the reverse effect and I was actually wide awake and I saw my movie from start to finish. Like, I knew the very first scene and I knew the last scene. And then from there I just had to fill in the gaps. So it was just a crazy, like, I don't know, epiphany. But yeah, so I immediately, the very next day, I wrote out an outline. And then from there, within a week, I want to say, I had a very rough draft of the entire script written.
And how long did it take you to finish it?
That's a funny story because I would say overall it took probably a month or two, but I sat on it. Once I had it, I'm like, okay, all right, I'll get to it. And then I think, I don't know, so fast forward to August of 2017, I think I tried turning the script into a novel, like into a book. And I'm like, that's way too much details. Like, so I'm like, so that made me just kind of lose interest for a while again. So I dusted it a little bit. And then I want to say in February 2018, so I was actually in pre-production for my movie at the time. February of 2018, I saw a competition for Sundance, for a script writing competition. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pull my script again and get it off the shelf and dust it off and see if I can enter this competition. From there, I really just busted my chops and like really just wanted to get my script as fine tuned as possible. So I want to say between February and March of 2018, a lot of things in the script changed. It was funny because there was a couple people, we had an official casting in end of March in 2018, but there was some people that I casted right away because I'm just like, look, like, I would love to have you in my movie. And then I came to them with the idea and everything, and they accepted. So the people who I had, which wasn't a lot, but the people who I had pre-casted, if that makes sense, I gave them the script. Well, it was funny, during that February, March timeframe, a couple of the scenes changed. So, yeah, there's an original script, and then there's the Sundance version. But then there's another version on top of that, which is the final version of the movie.
What got your interest about mental health?
Mainly because I know I personally have had my own struggles and my own stories for, if I can get deep on this podcast. Back in a couple years ago, I was seeing a therapist who I loved. And oh my gosh, I wish I could still see her, to be honest. Like, I'm like, we would be friends in real life. I just know with my own struggles. And then a lot of people I love, family members, and then also my family's passed actually, but also in my friends. My friends just are very, and especially since making my movie, actually, we're all just very open about our mental health. Like, we will text periodically and just like, I'm not having a good mental health day, and then we'll go from there and asking questions of what's going on and what's on their minds. And so yeah, a lot of my friends have anxiety and struggle with depression and bipolar and borderline personality disorders. So I don't know. It just really, the topic really just struck home. And yeah, I knew that I wanted to make something about it, be as authentic as possible. Because in my opinion, a lot of movies that are on mental health are done in the horror or suspense genres, which are good. Don't get me wrong. I love, honestly, that's those are my favorite genres, especially suspense. But if you think about it, a lot of mental health movies are done in a way of schizophrenia or psychopathic or obsessive, compulsive disorders. Whereas I wanted to just have a whole new perspective of it. I just really wanted to make it as authentic as possible, raw and authentic, if that makes sense.
So you wanted a more realistic take.
Yes.
Gotcha. Now your movie's not out yet.
No.
What? And you're keeping everything hush hush, which is great. What can you tell about your movie? Like, who's in it? What can you say about it?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, like, it's so crazy because pre-production started for my movie back in January 2018. We started production back in May of 2018. Well, I guess you could say 4 months later, whatever. 5 months later. We were in production for 5 months, and then we just wrapped on post-production actually last month. So it's officially completed. Post-production took about 7 months, I want to say. All of that to say is I'm now in the limbo phase. I'm applying for film festivals, but it takes a long time for the movie process. So that's the reason why I can't really say much about it, because it actually won't premiere for probably another year and a half at the very least. But what I can share is the people in it. So really cool. The lead actor came from the Cleveland area. His name is Joe Morales. I actually met him on a set that you and I did back in January of last year. So I remember meeting him and just watching him, what he did to the character in the script that you wrote. And I really liked his vibe, and I thought he was really talented. So we kind of stayed in touch for a bit, and I told him about my movie, and I asked him if he was interested in auditioning. He said, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we had auditions, and he auditioned, and myself and the other casting directors, like, we thought he did a great job, so we offered him the role. And it was complete dedication on his part, because he drove, every time he came to this area, he drove 3 hours daily. And some days, and I was very conscientious of his time. So I remember, like, most of his call times weren't until I think noon. But I want to say one time call time was at 9:30, and that was the earliest. So I was very conscientious of what time he was leaving his house and whatnot. Although I will say this, a couple times, it was rare, but I want to say there was 2 nights that we didn't wrap until 11 o'clock or midnight. So I mean, some days were like 12-hour days for sure. But overall, though, I mean, we were wrapping at 8 o'clock or so, just so he had enough time to get home. Another character was played by Melissa Zaz. She and I actually, we did Talk Nerdy together, and back in 2016. So we just kind of stayed in touch and became really good friends. And then from there, I don't know. She was actually one of the couple characters that I kind of envisioned. So I actually kind of wrote her into the script. So it was really funny. Not to mention she contributed to an alternative ending. So because of her contributions to the storyline, I offered her a role, and she accepted. So she was in it, and then a couple other characters. Jennifer Inks. I worked with her on a couple sets, and she's another great kind of Cleveland area actress who's actually done a lot of commercials and whatnot. So I offered her a role, and she accepted. So yeah, I mean, and then I had a couple locals, and then a couple other people who also traveled a little bit. But overall, I mean, I just loved the cast, and I loved what everyone brought to the characters.
And you also star in the movie, correct?
Yeah. So I wrote it, I directed, and I acted in it. Yes.
How hard is it to be the director while you're also acting?
It was so hard at first, I would say. I don't know, like I'm such a visionary person, visual person. Originally, I will say this, my cinematographers changed after the first, like, I don't know, 3 weeks, 2 weeks of beginning to shoot. So the actual director of photography, he ended up agreeing too much, and he was directing another movie actually last summer as well. Um, so he just kind of eventually faded out of the picture. So I ended up working with a new cinematographer, and he was new to me as far as taking over my project, just because I've never really worked one-on-one with him, and his name is Zach Kohoff. But it was crazy though, like once he realized my shooting style and what I envisioned, I mean, it was just a really good relationship from there. So I want to say like the first couple weeks, like it took a lot of communicating, but once we understood each other and once we understood, the expectations, it went so well. Like I could not have asked for. I mean, he brought my film to life.
Were you always going to be the main character?
I think so. Yeah, just because like it's one of those things that it was my baby, it was my project. Plus, not to mention, I really wanted to challenge myself as an actress because I knew that this role was kind of like unlike any other. And I know a lot of actors say that, but like it's kind of true. Like I got to play a vampire and I got to play a comedic blonde, whereas like this time I got to play like a very raw like woman, like a college age, but still young woman who was dealing with mental health issues. So yeah, I honestly took on the role because I really wanted to challenge myself as an actress.
So you mentioned that the script changed from pre-production to, production. How did
Mm-hmm.
that work out?
The script changed a lot from the beginning of production to the end piece, the end result, because we had the final, or what I thought was the final, back, when we started shooting. And then I remember wrapping I want to say it was the very last day of September. We ended up wrapping. I remember meeting Ayla Elizabeth, who's the assistant director, the sound engineer, Chris Johnson, and Zach Kohoff, the cinematographer. We ended up having a meeting. I want to say it was like mid-December, just to talk about the new year and what everyone's plans are and to go from there. I remember at this meeting, now that I think of it, Chris wasn't able to meet, but Zach spoke on his behalf. And Zach said, hey, like, I was talking to Chris, and we really have this idea of adding, you know, a scene or two to A Story Worth Living. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, like, we really have this idea. Like, what do you think? And I'm thinking, I'm in the middle of post-production, and we just wrapped like 2 months ago. Like, what is this? And so that was like the very like last thing on my mind. But while like having that conversation, I remember whipping up my phone and texting Joe Morales, and I said, please don't hate me. And he was like, what? And I said, well, I'm currently having a film meeting right now, and Zach and Chris are suggesting that we add a scene or two to A Story Worth Living. And Joe, of course, was game. I mean, that's just who he is. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you write something up and come up with something, like, I'll definitely do it. I want to say it was the second and third week of January. Yeah, we shot 2 more scenes for my movie. So it was middle of winter, as you can imagine, here in the Midwest. However, it ended up working out greatly because it ended up being, I remember the day that we shot with Joe, it was a super sunny day. We had no snow on the ground, and it was also mid 50s, which is kind of rare for Ohio. But I mean, we definitely loved it because Joe had to be in shorts regardless if it was 50 degrees outside or regardless if it was going to be 10. So he had to be in shorts because, again, A Story Worth Living was shot in the summer, but ended up working out. So that was really cool. And then the following weekend, we shot with a couple other characters in the movie. But yeah, so the 2 added scenes were just a great addition to the movie. Couldn't have asked for better results. And it's really cool because the only ones who really know about the additional scenes are like those who shot it and those who have kind of been a part of the editing process, I want to say. So a lot of the characters in the movie who saw the first draft or whatnot, they have no idea about these additional scenes. So I think that's going to be really cool. I'm actually hoping to have a viewing party for cast and crew at some point this summer. We just have to work out everybody's schedules. But yeah, so that'll be really cool getting their feedback and getting, their opinions on the additional scenes.
And you actually did something much different. You actually traveled outside of Ohio for
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, well, I will say this, most of it was shot in Ohio. We were fortunate to shoot in, I'm probably going to get my stats and numbers wrong, but I want to say we shot in 3 states. We shot in 8 different cities, 8, I want to say. So we shot in Michigan, and we also shot one of the biggest scenes we shot in West Virginia. So we shot that in end of July. That was really cool. So yeah, we got to travel around to a lot of the major cities in Ohio. A lot of the bigger shoot days, Joe was able to just meet us there on set as opposed to driving 3 hours to Toledo and then from there travel. So yeah, but yeah, we got to do some traveling, and it was really cool because I know everybody loved it. Everybody loved getting out of Toledo and just loved changing the environment and the view and everything. So I know it really just kind of boosted the morale and boosted just the overall, I guess, production.
How did that make you feel when you were able to do that? Because that's actually for a lower budget movie, that's actually pretty huge that you got to do something like that.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I We had an Indiegogo for the movie, but it kind of flopped. But I did talk to a couple investors and did raise a couple funds that way. But overall, like I just really took on a lot of projects the last couple years, a lot of modeling or marketing projects, and even film editing projects, like anything to save up money to make my movie happen. And yeah, I'm really proud of myself to say that all the main characters, anyone with a speaking role was paid. Crew members were paid. And then also travel expenses were paid. So West Virginia, I want to say we got a couple hotel rooms and then also just travel in itself. So like, yeah, that was all paid for, and their food was paid for. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a lower, it was obviously it wasn't a zero expense budget, but like it was a lower expense movie. But like, I'm very fortunate with the outcomes, and yeah.
Now you have directed now and you have acted. Which one do you prefer?
That's tough. I think I have a new love for directing. I'm in the middle of kicking out ideas for a new feature script, and that one that I will be directing. But I think I will always have a love for acting, though, because the whole element of taking on someone else's story and bringing that to life. I mean, I don't know, there's just a power in it. But I will say this, to to be able to direct something and to have your name and to know that, at the end of the day, you're calling the shots and you're, bringing a vision to life. I don't know, I mean, they're both so different and so alike in so many ways. So I don't think I can choose just one, to be honest.
Are
But I will
you
say this, directing has really increased my attention to detail. That's for sure.
Yes, I've been in your shoes. I believe that. Are you going to sway more to the directing and kind of limit your acting? Or are you going to still do like maybe 50-50?
Probably 50-50. I don't think I'll be able to do like a feature, like a story worth living for a while, just because it's still my baby. It's still like, in the film festival, hopefully circuit. So just waiting on that. So as far as like putting the time and the money and the effort into another project, I really just don't. I just can't imagine that at this time. So right now, I think I am going to focus on just acting roles. I'm going to be in a suspense thriller movie. It was going to be actually start production this fall, but I think it's actually going to be pushed back until winter, spring of next year. That I'm pretty excited about.
So you said you got your one you got coming up soon, maybe this year, next year. What else do you got going on for you right now?
Well, right now I just finished a short film back in May, and I actually edited it again to help have a little extra funds for film festivals for Story Worth Living, film festival submissions, I should say. Um, so yeah, I'm currently editing that, and I have that feature coming up. But to be honest, like I'm really not looking for much right now. I really just want to enjoy my summer. I did not really have a summer much last year. So I'm really just trying to live in the present this year and really just focus on, yeah, enjoying what is. But as we mentioned earlier, that rarely happens. So we'll see how long I'll have that mindset. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what this fall brings.
Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so my biggest social media page, the one that I do a lot of my business on, is Instagram. Account is Vanessa L. Leonard, and you can check me out there.
And I will post the links in the description where you can find her on Instagram, and you can find her movie on Instagram too. So you can
Yes.
see maybe short little clips, pictures, obviously. You can see all that stuff and learn more about her movie through Instagram.
Yeah, so actually I really love marketing my movie because since it has a mental illness factor, I promote mental health and a lot of positivity around it. I also have like fun little gifts that I've used from my movie, and then eventually, as time goes along, I will be sharing more and more. I will say this though: the number 10 is very important to A Story Worth Living. That's because we started shooting on May 10th. We started production on May 10th of last year, and from there, there's a couple other reasons which I can't share at this time why 10 is very important. But because of the number 10, every 10th of each month, we actually share a random behind the scenes fact about the movie, about the production, or something about a character or an actor, I should say. So yeah, I'm definitely sharing fun stuff along the way to keep people interested in my movie, until eventually I'll be able to share the trailer and then hopefully eventually the movie once it's premiered. So the Instagram account is A Story Worth Living Movie. That's the same for Facebook as well, A Story Worth Living. Our Twitter account, which I also share a little bit, and that's Worth Living Film is the handle.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
And definitely going to bring you on when your movie is officially released.
Yeah,
So
I
we
would love that.
can talk about it. And hopefully you will let me watch it so I can review it for the podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you guys for listening to this interview of Chit Chat. Remember, hit that like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and you're never going to miss any episodes of Real Movies Podcast or episodes of Chit Chat. I'll see you later.